Welcome back to Babbie's house. I am honored to have in the house today Angela Williams, and she has written a book called From Sorrows to Sapphires, Incest, Silence and God. You say that really the basis of your book was that the beginning of healing is telling.
Absolutely. What I stand for is an opportunity to break the silence. There is so much shame that covers a victim, and a lot of times a victim is a child who doesn't know what to do with that shame and doesn't know how to speak, doesn't even know how to put into words what's happening to them. So they take that silence, they live in I like to call it a silent prison of pain, and they remain in that prison into adulthood. And it's so difficult to tell someone what's happened, because 90% of the time it's someone they know, love, and trust. We've got 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys that are being sexually abused by the time they're 17. Only 1 in 10 will tell. And 90% of the time it's someone they trust and they love, so they begin to protect that perpetrator or that abuser, and they don't know how to tell. So that silence sort of festers into adulthood, and until they begin to break the silence, until they begin to acknowledge what's happened, then healing can't take place, and our Lord can't go into those dark places that we hide from Him and that we keep in silence. It's almost like having cancer and not telling anyone. You know, look at how you would suffer with that knowledge, and that eats you up inside.
So for mothers or fathers or caregivers of children that are smaller, can you recommend that there might be some ways that they could tell maybe if their children are in danger?
Absolutely. Well, the ministry that I've started, Voice, is all about breaking the silence, and that is the key, is that we have to begin as adults to speak out so the shame is removed. And then we have to encourage our children to speak out, and as simple as asking them, has anyone ever touched you uncomfortably? Recognizing behavior changes in our children, recognizing when they're kind of edgy around a person or they don't seem at ease. And I teach a class, 7 Steps to Prevent Child Sexual Abuse. So we as adults have to learn not only to teach our children how to protect themselves, but we as adults have to learn how to prevent it, how to be vigilant, how to recognize dangerous situations that we're putting our children into. There needs to be no uninterrupted one-on-one time at all for a child. That person needs to know that at any time, if they're with their uncle or they're with their godfather or they're at a neighbor's house, that you may drop in and you may just, see what's going on. And that child has a sense of protection, that you're always vigilant and always taking care of them. But just simple questions, and Voice is now creating a whole series of children's books that's going to begin to teach children maybe the difference between a secret and a surprise. Okay, children can keep surprises. Children don't need to be keeping secrets. But no one's teaching them these basic issues of personal boundaries. Where's your personal boundary? If somebody gets, this close to you, that's not so comfortable. Teaching children that there are places where your bathing suit covers that no one needs to touch. But we're not having those conversations as adults with our children.
And why are we not? Why are parents and grandparents, and maybe not grandparents, maybe grandparents are a little more vigilant? Yeah.
They're uncomfortable with their topic. They're uncomfortable with my book. I sit in bookstores and there are people doing book signings that can't look me in the face because the word incest is on the front of the book. They're so uncomfortable with this situation, yet sex is rampant in our media.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's such a shame. It's such a disgrace.
Why did you put that word on the cover? Why are you so vocal and so adamant and just, throwing it out there,
Because
Angela?
I want to remove the shame. The shame does not belong on our shoulders. The shame belongs on the perpetrator's shoulders. And we as, I am a victor, but we as survivors take on that shame, and we live in that shame. And unless you have someone come alongside you that says, brother, sister, that shame does not belong to you, we have to speak about it. We have to get the public talking about it. So I wanted to hit it head on. I wanted to break the silence. I wanted to say incest. Yes, I suffered through incest, and it was my stepfather, and it was horrific. And yes, you can heal from this if you begin to talk. And those are hard conversations to have. It's hard to tell your family about a situation when it involves another family member. That's, of course, not easy. But we have to get it out in the open for God to be able to heal that brokenness and heal those hurts.
Yes. You said that you were abused at the hands of a stepfather. Can you just describe for me, and I do recommend that people read your book. It is riveting. It is riveting, but it is also victorious. But I want people to peek inside the heart of a child who is in pain from being a victim of sexual abuse?
Well, I will tell you that it was very challenging in the book to be able to write of the pain, to be raw and to be honest without being explicit. But I think God helped me to achieve that by being able to explain certain situations and letting your imagination take you the rest of the way. But to begin with, there is a grooming process that takes place in a child's experience of child sexual abuse. Oftentimes, a perpetrator is very smart and they know what they're doing. And they groom the child with inappropriate touch. They groom the child with inappropriate gifts. They groom the child with inappropriate conversations with that child. So by the time full-fledged sex begins with the child, it's like the child kind of didn't know what hit them, and now and they begin to take on that shame. And let's say it happens once and the child doesn't tell, they don't know how to tell the second time because now they think they've done something wrong. And the perpetrator has almost invited this child into this relationship as if it were an affair, and now the child begins to take on that shame and that pain and that guilt.
Oftentimes the child is threatened.
And threatened, oftentimes they're threatened, oftentimes God is used. You've done a horrible thing in front of God, and that's horrible, because for me it really created a very dysfunctional relationship because I didn't know how to relate to God the Father, it being my stepfather, and my biological father abandoned me. So that trust with God was very, very difficult to create. But I will tell you, in a child's mind and in a child's heart, they know this is sin. They know that they've been hurt. A lot of times it's great physical pain. It's great emotional pain. And until we as a society stand up and reclaim the ground that the enemy has taken in abusing these children and instilling this innocence, it is never going to stop. And this has been going on since biblical times. You look in, I think it's Samuel 13, where Tamar was sexually abused by her brother, and David swept it under the rug.
Yes, he just totally ignored it.
So this is not a new problem.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I pray I can be a voice. I can be a voice for survivors to say, it's okay, let's talk about this and let's begin to heal. You know, let's take it to the cross and let's invite Jesus into these dark places and heal. And let's go to our children and let's say, there are risks out there. There are risks of sexual predators, and it could possibly be someone you know, love, and trust. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to use your no voice. I want you to scream no if anyone ever does something to you. I want you to come to tell me, and tell me immediately. And if the first person you tell doesn't believe you, tell somebody else. And I want adults to become vigilant about learning the 7 steps to prevent child sexual abuse.
Yeah. I have been talking with Angela Williams, a survivor of and a victor over childhood incest and